Hello everyone, welcome back to our episode on Showcase on Elden Ring. For today's item, I figured I'd do the Morningstar. It's a weapon you get fairly early in the game, and it can get pretty powerful. I did try to do a review on it, but still don't have to build. Almost there though. The description reads for the Morningstar: a great hammer comprised of a globe attached to a handle. Though a bludgeoning to deal strike damage, the appellate star covered in spikes which causes blood loss. Iconic given its grace name, the weapon often reeks of blood. Well then, for a Morningstar, well, that's a Morningstar when you look at it, at least how we understand this weapon. Anyway, the skill is the kick. So, yeah, in the past you have access to kick pretty normally and across most of the Soulsborne franchise. This time around, is relegate to just a stat. But let's go on some physical here. Physical damage, you can see the base damage is pretty darn good. Scaling, well, I'll get better. And trust me, when you do get the right build, it surpasses it does a lot of damage. Alright, stat requirement, basically nothing, you just need a bit of strength. Not much else. Scaling, you get a D for strength, D for dex. And it does have the passive effect to build up blood, so it causes bleeding. Now, yeah, give that said, this is not the fastest weapon to cause bleeding, but it is pretty hefty and does a lot of poison damage. And you're trying to use the weapon as a shield here, well, not that impressive. What is strange though, is when you look at the skill, you get the kick, but there's no cost effect, there's no cost for that. It's one of the very few skills in this game that doesn't cost anything in terms of FP, so you can spam it. The only thing it will cost you is a bit of stamina. Alright, visually, well, yeah, it's this weapon. Now, historically, the term Morningstar is a very loose term for, well, something on a shaft with a bulbous end with spikes. The length didn't really matter too much. In fact, the most common variants that survive today are generally long ones, usually a pole arm, 6 feet in length. This shorter version does exist though, and it was mainly used by knights as armor developed more and more advanced. Well, the active blades and spears became less prevalent. They switched to halberds and maces in order to injure each other, not themselves, sorry. As piercing weapons and slashing weapons are used against armor, but however, the armor does nothing for impact. Because when you have a 12 pound metal end striking your shoulder, that armor doesn't do shit. You just break bones. And having spikes on them gives the chance for it to pierce through that armor and cause bleeding underneath. And if you weren't armored, well, what are you doing in that battle? Get out. But enough speculation on that. Good weapon, we now know it as a short shaft, but let's go on to the animations and some new stuff. So, the basic attack is, well, we know this from Dark Souls, it's just a wide swing, and you probably do something similar to that, but wait, the final combo, it's a stab? Yes, a stab. Get used to seeing that, by the way. Power attack is overhead slamming, which you would normally do in battle, because you'd probably be shoulder to shoulder with other knights. Okay, and then you can also charge his attack. Now, moving on to the crouching animation, it's strictly a stab. Yes, a stab. As this is a spiked weapon, you can stab with it, though it'd be hard on your shoulders to repeatedly do that. The crouching power attack does not exist as usual. Next, we got the backstep, which, yes, another stab. I'm not sure why they overused the stab here, but no matter. As you see, the power attack backstep does not exist, just use the plain basic power attack. Okay, rolling, you guessed it, the light rolling attack is another stab. It's awkward seeing a mace being used as stab, isn't it? And the rolling power attack does not exist. Next, we got I believe the sprinting attack here, which you use the weapon pretty much as a quick club, like the normal attack, except now you're in a sprinting motion into it. Alright, and the power attack, well, it's the stab for the sprinting power attack, which is normally the light attack, so it's already just weird, these animations. Now the jumping attack, well, it's a jumping attack. It's like normal, since you're jumping while doing it. The power attack variant makes more sense. You're jumping and bringing the weapon down for the most amount of, I guess, velocity you can give that that star metal head. Going on to two-handed, well, you got various overhead and swapping swings, ending with yet again another stab. Whoever told you I'm gonna stab you with this Morningstar? It's a weird thing to say. This sounds wrong. Anyway, the power attack, well, you're breaking it down like a hammer. Well, that's what the weapon's classified as, a hammer. Okay, the crouching at the normal attack is, well, it's a two-handed stab, which would, I guess, make it easy to use, be less hard on one shoulder. And, of course, the crouching power attack doesn't exist for two hands. The light step back attack, as you can see, is a two-handed stab, and you can probably guess the power attack does not exist. But no matter. Okay, and we got the sprint attack, which, again, identical to the one-handed version. It's just a normal attack, just sped up with a sprint. The power attack variant, as you see, is the stab. Hey, I'll never get around that. It's just too weird. Okay, now for jumping attack, you see it's, again, identical to the one-handed version, and two-handed, also identical to the two-handed version, just with two hands. Alright, what are we missing now? I think that just about covers everything in the basic animations, but now we have the skill, the mighty kick. So yeah, well, you can't use it while you jump, you can't use it while you sprint, while you can stop and go into it. You can only use it when, more or less, moving or in the middle of combos. Doesn't matter, one-handed, two-handed, they're identical moves. You use the mighty foot to kick. So I'm turning on my stats here, you can see, no FP consumption. However, I'll go to a nearby enemy and show that it does consume stamina instead. And something else interesting too, I'll also point out. Not the most preferable way, but you can stun lock enemies, and if you have a buddy, well, you can have your buddy wail on them. Well, you can definitely stun lock them. And on the fifth kick, as you see, it does in fact break his stance, at least for this casual enemy. Though this is not the right way to break a stance, there's such much better ways. But still, interesting. Alright, now that's been covered, let's go on to horse animations. Now, as much strange as it is, yes, knights used the Morningstar on horses. In fact, it would be a lot more painful to be hit by this thing. Now, the animation's a bit awkward, as you would think you would swing back upwards from a down swing, not bring the whole weapon back up, but that would maximize your damage. Power attack, well, you bring it back and swing it forward, mixed with the velocity of a horse, and that would be, well, a lot of damage. But yes, you could hold the weapon down and drag, and strike enemies as you drive by, or ride by. But the only downside is, well, the weapon's a bit short for a horse. Now, this is where you find it, in the Weeping Peninsula. Just as you enter the place, and the carriage here is broken, you'll see a bunch of enemies, and this is where it's located. So yeah, basically when you enter the place, so long if you choose to wipe out everything here, well, I don't think you have to wipe out. I think you can just kill some dogs that are ward hounds, whatever they are. But yeah, using the weapon, you could use the drag, but the range is a little awkward and a little short in my opinion. It's not quite a sword length. It's say a foot shorter than a sword length. Oh no, a third of a meter, whichever dimensions you want to use here. I won't say it's the best weapon to use horseback. It can certainly be used, but as soon as the numbers start being stacked against you, it's too short of a range really to rely on. It's much better for the ground use. And on top of that, it's more of a, I guess, borderline almost defensive. Because it relies on you stun locking your enemy and breaking his poise in order to take a proper advantage. Let's go on some stance ranking. So, using a one-handed version on against a shield, 3 hits. That's what I expected from a club and hammer ball category. Power attack? Well, you only got 2 hits. That's pretty quick. But there's quicker ways. Now let's go into two-handed sleight attack. As you see, just takes 2 hits. That's preferable, because if you do the two-handed power attack, well, you see it still takes 2 hits, but that's a lot slower. And though, of course, we can follow up with a critical attack. But wait, there's a better way. Now, me breaking out of my normal shell, you see with a jumping power attack, 1 hit. That's how you do that. That is the best way to get through a shield. Pretty much almost trivializes the shield, doesn't it? Alright, now let's go on to So, sense breaking on a troll. Now, this is not really the best weapon to fight a troll with. Sure, you can cause bleed, but a lot of other weapons can cause bleed too. It's short, it's stubby, it's not too terribly fast. Though it can cause bleed buildup against larger opponents with higher, health pools. Because, it does build up, though it's not rapid. So you saw I was not able to break the stance with normal attacks. And power attacks, I don't like how I'm just cemented in the ground like as if you're using a greatsword. But no matter. It's also a little awkward trying to hit his ankles with the power attack, because it's just strictly a vertical attack. And he moves around a whole bunch. But, as you see, it's not easy to do. And he likes stopping my head in. But no matter. As you saw, I could not really accomplish it. Now we're going to the light attacks with the two-handed variant now. Makes it a bit easier, and this is more a preferable way how you use this thing against a large opponent, providing the large opponent is not jumping around like a monkey on the walls. But this weapon can easily make do. But in terms of using it, you can see it just doesn't break the stance so easily of a giant opponent. It just doesn't have the DPS to do it. And these guys, of course, have far too much poise. But you saw there I just defeated him with the blood buildup. Alright, this time I'm going to try and use the jumping attack. Now, as much as it's a great idea that sounds, it can be done. It's just, man, it's a little awkward. As now I'm the monkey jumping around. But oh well. But as you see, it took about 4-5 hits to break a stance, so that's the best way to do it if you want to do that. Still, it leaves you quite vulnerable to more advanced attacks, in my opinion. So it really shouldn't be a bothered attempt. Now, you guys probably wondering, can you kick a troll to break his stance? Now, list of things you shouldn't do in Elden Ring. Getting into a kicking contest with a troll is one of them. They're a lot better at it than we are. I mean, like, a lot better. Because being grounded in place trying to kick a troll's ankles and watching him stamp on your head, well, that's usually the result that happens. So overall, it's a pretty good weapon, but the bleed leaves a little bit to be desired, and you reek of blood like the description says. And that has been showcased for today. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Do take care out there.